So the reason I chose to join the army, probably the main reason being was I hated school. I was not interested in education in the slightest. Dropped out of school at 15, failed all my GCSEs, and then pretty much realised that actually now I needed to be a grown up and get a job. And it became very apparent that nobody was willing to give me a job because I had no education. The only sort of exception to that was the army, because sort of 20 years ago they weren't quite as strict on the sort of requirements to get in. So I thought, well, I'll give it a go for a couple of years, see what happens, see if I like it, and then maybe I'll get a better job after a few years. However, so I joined up, did all my training, and then I realised actually this is a pretty decent job, and I've been doing it for 20 years now. And so all of the education that I wasn't interested in as a teenager, I've now redone that as a grown up, as an adult. I've redone all my GCSEs and I've got a pretty decent education now. So, it's almost like a blessing in disguise. And then the reason I chose the army over the RAF and the Navy is purely because I didn't really know anything about any of them. And so the army just looked kind of cool, and I thought, well, I'll give it a go for a few years and see what happens. But the rest is history. But I'm sure Nikki's got a very different answer to me, though.
Yeah, so the reason I joined the army, a bit different. So it wasn't at all to do with pay. Mine was more lifestyle with the army. So I was quite into travelling. I knew the opportunities in the army to travel were really good, to go away quite a lot. Another reason as well was I was quite into fitness and outdoors. So I didn't want a sort of a 9 to 5 sort of office work job. I wanted to be outdoors, enjoying life, travelling and keeping fit. And the reason I chose to join the army rather than the RAF or Navy was because I had a lot of friends in the army, so I got a lot of information from them, and I found the website really easy to use and the application quite smooth. So that's the reason why I joined the army.
Cool. So two very, very different stories there.
Absolutely, yeah, completely different approaches in. That's brilliant, and I think that says it all about the army, doesn't it? Is that there is no one way in. It's
exactly, there's no sort of template. Every single story is different, every single person's background is different, but that's what makes the army such a good organisation, because we have people from different sort of walks of life bringing something different to the party.
Yeah, so there's 78 different job roles you can sign up to as a regular soldier, full time. So you've got anything from infantry, so you've got working on tanks, you've got Army Air Corps, Royal Artillery, so you can be a sort of a gunner. You've also got engineering jobs such as bricklaying, being a surveyor, got driver, chefs, you've got HR specialists, so administrators, got police, we've got people that work with animals, we've got dog handlers, we've got medics, doctors, nurses, there's 78 different jobs. So pretty much anything you can do on civilian street, you can pretty much do that in the army. I don't know if you want to add on to any of that.
No, exactly that. Yeah. So I always say, especially when we're talking to colleges, literally any course you could think of that you could do at college, university, that sort of thing, pretty much you can guarantee that you can do that in the army. So just about every job you can think of. Brilliant. So in some respects, you could say it's a little bit like Call of Duty. We wear the uniform, we use weapon systems, we do deploy on operations, we are all trained soldiers, and there is that sort of potential that we may have to deploy out on the ground and engage with a hostile enemy force. However, what they don't do in Call of Duty is stuff like weapon cleaning. They don't do stuff like vehicle maintenance, equipment care. They don't show you how to play sports and things like that. They definitely don't show you payday at the end of the month. So although there is a few similarities, okay, in the real life sort of application is very, very different. Yes, so every single one of those jobs that Nikki was just talking about there, regardless of whether you're a dentist, you're a chef, you're a tank commander, every single one of them, you're a trained soldier first. So you'll have basic weapons training. You'll learn about field tactics, how to dig trenches, that sort of thing. And then you'll go and learn your trade on top. So you'll learn how to be a carpenter or a plumber or a vehicle mechanic on top. So me and Nikki, Nikki's an HR specialist, I work in communications. However, we're trained soldiers. So if we were to deploy on operations, we would know that no matter what situation we get in, we've both got that basic fundamental soldier skill. We can both operate a weapon system. We both know what to do if we come under contact with the enemy. We both know how to treat a casualty, that kind of thing. So regardless of what jobs we do, we've got that base level of training, and that is every single soldier in the British Army, from the most junior private soldier up to the most senior officer.
Thank you. Yeah, I guess that comes down to the principle of, at any point, if World War III or whatever was to start again, that every single employed member of the British Army would be available to fight. Is that the principle?
Exactly that. Yeah. So my previous operations that I've deployed on, I was attached to an infantry unit. I was attached to 3 rifles, and we had clerks, medics, signallers, all within our patrols, all going out on the ground at the same time. So we all knew that we were basic soldier trained, but we all had something like a different skill that we were bringing on as well. So if you're not deployed on exercise, if you're not deployed on operations, I kind of touched on it a little bit, sort of jokingly when we were talking about Call of Duty, but all of the equipment and stuff that we use, okay, we have to make sure it is fully functional. So like I say, I work in communications. If I'm not deployed, so when I'm back in camp, my job would be to make sure the equipment's sort of serviceable. All our vehicles are up and running. You know, like with your normal car, you service it, you'd MOT it. Well, we do all that maintenance ourselves, so we make sure our vehicles, our equipment, our weapon systems are all clean and serviceable and ready to use. So Nikki works in HR, so her job's going to be completely different to mine. I'll be getting greasy and dirty doing vehicle maintenance. If Nikki was doing that in HR, I'd be very, very surprised. But so Nikki, if you want to say a little bit about your job.
Yeah, so I do my day job every day. We don't necessarily have a day where it's quiet. We pretty much do our job every single day of the week. But yeah, we're quite busy. We have about up to 500 people to manage between our small team of about 20. So there's people always need paying, everyone needs administrative action. We also do physical training during the working week. We might be down the ranges, firing weapons. We also do what we call MATs, it's compulsory lessons that we need to do and complete every year. So we might be doing that, things like map reading, just brushing up on our military knowledge.
Cool. So just kind of building on what Nikki says there, an additional thing that you can do on top of your job is you can do instructor qualifications. So I did 3 years at a training regiment, training new recruits in the army, and I've got all sorts of qualifications in teaching. So where Nikki says there about, you know, you could do your yearly tests, I've got instructor qualifications to teach the regiment, so I can teach weapon lessons, I can teach guys on the ranges to fire the weapons, I can teach battlefield first aid, nuclear, biological, chemical warfare fighting, all that sort of stuff. I'm an instructor to teach all of that. So as well as doing my normal day job, equipment care, vehicle maintenance, that sort of thing, I can teach all the troops to make sure that all our sort of skills and drills and our knowledge is up to scratch. So just in case we do have to deploy, you know, everybody's singing off the same song sheet in terms of what they know and what they can do. Okay, that's a really good question. Very sort of sensible question actually. So initially, when you start basic training, you will be committed to 28 days, and that's the first 28 days of your training, and that's basically because it's going to be an absolute shock to the system going from, you know, school, college, a normal civilian workplace straight into the army, and it's different to any other workforce anywhere in the world. And the reason we have the first 28 days that you're committed for is to let you adjust and realise, you know, this massive sort of learning curve, and then after a couple of weeks you think actually it's not too bad. So you're committed for the first 28 days of your training. Once you've passed day 28, okay, to the end of your training, which is 14 weeks long, you can leave whenever you want during that training, and all you got to do is speak to your sort of your chain of command, explain, you know, the reasons why you want to leave, you know, and they'll have a chat with you. But ultimately, if you decide you want to leave, then you can leave, and that goes all the way up to the end of your basic training. once you've completed basic training, you're a trained soldier then. So that's basically when your contract is going to kick in. And you'll be contracted to do a minimum of 4 years service. Now, if you get to your 3-year point and you decide, you know what, this isn't for me, you can give your notice in, and that'd be 12 months notice. So you can give that in at your 3-year point and you'd leave at your 4-year point. However, if you're loving life and you think this is the best job I've ever done in my life, I never want to give it up. Okay, you can, once you've passed that 4-year point, you can serve up to 12 years. And then your 12-year point, you're basically going to get given another 12-year contract, and then you can serve up to 24 years. But having said that, you can leave whenever you want, as long as you pass that 4-year point. All you've got to do is give 12 months notice. Now, it may sound like a lot, 12 months notice. Normally, say you was working in Tesco's, you probably have to give like a week's notice or something like that. The reason that you have to give 12 months notice in the army is because another company like Tesco's, they're not going to get you on all sorts of courses and what we call resettlement, so giving you qualifications and training to then go and get another job afterwards. And that's what we do in the army. So I'm coming up to retiring in the next couple of years because I've done my time. So I'll spend my last sort of year or two doing loads of courses, getting loads of qualifications. So when I do leave, you know, I'll only be 40, so you know, kids will probably think I'm ancient, an old dinosaur, but I'll only be 40, so I'll still be young enough to then start a whole new career. And the army, as part of my resettlement, will give me all those qualifications so I can get another job and keep working and, you know, just keep loving life.
So is it possible to continue after the 24 years service, or is it you are?
Potentially, yes. So we've got a long-term engagement thing. So basically, once you hit your full service, you can be offered another 2 years of service. It depends on, you know, what job role you do, what rank you are, that kind of thing. But yeah, you can be given an extension of 2 years, and then at the end of that 2 years, you might get given another 2 years, and then at the end of that another 2. So it's just basically little block extension. So you can do anything up to about 30 years. But by the time you've done that, you probably want to, you know, put your feet up and, you know, put your slippers on and have a bit of downtime. So, but yeah, you can keep going up to anything to about 30 odd years.
Yeah. So the short answer is yes, you can. We had, before I came to the office, there was another HR specialist. And he was at uni, getting paid to go to uni. I'm not sure if he contributed, did he? Or
yeah, so he was studying his master's degree in business and administration, and yeah, so he was basically a full-time soldier, you know, getting paid every day. But he would take 1 day a week off to go up to university and do all his studies, still getting paid for it. And a lot of the sort of funding towards his university was covered by the army, so he would have only had to pay about 20% of the costs. So, you know, the student loan straight away has come down massively. But yeah, so there's all sorts of different things we can do in terms of like bursaries to help fund towards your education. So say, for example, you wanted to go to university and study engineering and then join as an engineering officer. Off the back of that, you could look at getting money towards sort of basically fund your university. And then the kind of deal is once you finish uni, you then join the army. But there's all sorts of, like, say, for example, you want to be a nurse. Okay, you've got to go to university for 3 years to be a nurse. But if you join the army as a nurse, you'll do your basic army training and then you'll go to uni. And because you're a trained soldier, you'll basically be getting paid 18 grand a year to go to university and have all your accommodation and food and everything paid for. So, you know, you won't be living that traditional student life of, you know, eating pot noodles and ketchup sachets because your skin, you know, you'd be on a full-time wage. Going to university to study to become a nurse. And there's all sorts of kind of bursaries and funds where you can basically get your education paid for. Exactly like I was saying, you know, my kind of introduction where, you know, I had no education when I joined the army, but now the army is funded. Basically, I've got A levels, I've got, you know, studied a diploma, I've got all sorts of management qualifications and everything. And I've never paid a penny for any of it.
That's brilliant. Thank you. Thank you so much for joining me, by the way, today. Honestly,
no, it's our pleasure.
It means a huge amount to me because I'm